for the fans.
The conditions, as you can see, are absolutely diabolical on this stage of the Tour de France. The attempt this morning to take the riders to the start at Lens-les-Bourgs, in fact, did not take place because although they put them in the vehicles and the snow ploughs made their way over the Israel, the wind has been blowing at something like about 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometers per hour. The Galibier, which we're looking down at now, there's no way the riders could actually race over this when they tried to restart. Just look at that banner on the right-hand side blowing all over the place. So the objective then was to get the riders off to another start point, and the latest news we have is at Le Montier-les-Bains. That's 46 kilometers from the finish. We'll restart the race, and that's going to happen sometime in the next 20 minutes or so. I can't be more positive than that. I'm looking on the screen here, and it says Départ de Monetier at 15:32. So these are the conditions looking at on your screen, which were there for all the officials, the riders et al. Today. And I think it was a very good decision for some of us to come over the pass last night. We were actually booked in at Val d'Isère, and we decided, in fact, to make the journey to be at the finishing point today because the difficulties that were going to be in getting up. Here are all the cars you see with the bikes on top. The riders safely ensconced in various team vehicles. Many of the big top teams, of course, in fact, I suppose every one here has a large coach in which the riders can travel in comfort and wait until they get to the start as such. But a miserable day on the Tour de France, and we've been asking around here amongst some of the riders who have been in the sport for many years now, ridden the Tour de France, and various journalists. We seem to think that the last time the snow caused big problems way back in 1978 on the Tour de France. But I remember last year in the Tour of Italy, when on one of the stages from Mondovì over the top to Briançon, they had to stop the race just before they got up on the climbs. They had one of these Intergiro sprints, and they decided to call that the end of the race. So quite a surprising number of riders found themselves being stopped as they got through this Intergiro sprint because there'd been an avalanche on the road ahead. That was last year in the Tour of Italy. See all these cars going through, Motorola there with the bikes all on top. The mechanics, of course, having set themselves to work last night, getting ready for the first climb of the day, which is going to be quite a tough one right after the start. They're going to be pitchforked out from Val d'Isère, which is 1,870 metres above sea level, to go straight up the top of the Iseran. That was 2,770 metres above sea level, and there was going to be a competition for the Souvenir Henri de Grange. Henri de Grange is the man who founded the Tour de France. It was his idea that it should take place to promote the sales of his newspaper, which in those days was called Lotto, L-A-U-T-O, Lotto. And that paper, I'm sure many of you know, but I'll let people don't know that, in fact, it was printed on yellow paper in those days. And after the tour had settled down for a number of years, the people on the side of the road were saying, hey, look, we like this thing, but we can't see who's in the lead. And so he decided to have a yellow jersey because the Lotto was printed on yellow paper, and that's where the yellow jersey comes from. So Henri de Grange was going to have that commemoration at the top of the Iseran, but the snow put a stop to that one. Down the other side, it's going to be a big drop down to Saint-Michel de Maurienne, where then they'd start to tackle the climb up the Col de la Galibier, where the monument on de Grange was placed, but they couldn't go over the Galibier. You can see the conditions here today, so we're going to take a short break and bring you some more information after this. Now underway. At one point it looked like they're starting at 3 o'clock, then it's at 3:30. In fact, they now have got underway at I suppose about 3 o'clock, 46 kilometres today. Not a very good picture. The problem is, of course, that the helicopters can't fly. We're having to bounce the pictures up onto the tops of the mountains. And on top of the Galibier, by the way, the television units are marooned in the snow at the moment, and our sympathies go out to these chaps because they've got to get down off the mountain, they've got to get the trucks through the snow, they've got to get the equipment all loaded up with numb hands and very cold feet and what have you, and then move on to tomorrow's stages to position themselves again on the tops of the mountains to bring you pictures back at home. So whilst the riders themselves have had a very bad start today, one has to think of the people who bring you the television pictures, the work they've been trying to do, and the fact they went out to the top of the mountains yesterday, and they're out there sleeping in their vans through the snow which came down last night. 61 kilometres per hour, that's because the wind I spoke to you about earlier on is blowing right up their tails, and so it's going to be a very, very fast stage indeed by the looks of it, and I hope that my friend Stephen Roche can actually make it in time here, because he normally stays down the start to weigh up the rider who got the most aggressive award for yesterday, and then they give him some cheese for it. But I don't know if they've moved the scales all the way out from the start at Valence, where it's supposed to be. And what a disappointment to the work that people put in. See all the flags here waving at Sestriere. Well, down in Valence last night, they'd got the whole of the centre of the town blocked off, so they have fun and frivolities going on in the town centre, right in the row where they're going to start the race. And of course, the weather got worse and worse last night. So after all that work that went into it, we've now got the problems you see here. I certainly cannot remember a Tour de France like this one before. The race is 1 week earlier because of the Olympic Games, but that shouldn't be the reason we're seeing the conditions that we're seeing here on this tour this year. We've had rain all the way through. Yesterday on the time trial, although the rain seemed to keep clear, there was spots of it for some of the later riders, and if you haven't caught the information in your press so far, let me put you in the picture as the race settles down on the road. At least we got some action, and if you haven't picked it up in your newspaper, this is the position. Yesterday on the time trial, an early leader was Chris Boardman, and in fact Chris in the end finishing 8th spot in the time trial yesterday, 30.5 kilometres, straight up from Bourg-Saint-Maurice to Val d'Isère. 8th spot then, Chris Boardman, but he was 2 minutes and 30 seconds down on the man who absolutely romped up the hill. He made it look like a Sunday afternoon club run, but Avenji Berzin came up the hill to take the stage victory and then dominate the yellow jersey, because he started the day in yellow, but he's only 1600ths of a second ahead of Alano. And at the end of the stage, he was finishing in first spot, 35 seconds ahead of Bjorn Ries of the Telecom team. The Danish rider absolutely bust a gut to try and get that stage victory. He said he wanted it that day, and you see on your screen now, break into that little light blue line. That's the bit they're racing today, and all the black conchs you see behind that are not to be worried about. Chris Boardman here, by the way, is lying just behind. It looks like Maurizio Fondriest at the moment. I'll get my old guide radio going, because we should be able to pick up something off Radio Tour. Well, at least I hope they've made it over the mountain. But quickly at the front, you can see Chris Boardman right in the middle there. Quite a good ride up the mountain yesterday. And one bit of news, bad news, sad news in fact, which I didn't know when we spoke to Chris Boardman yesterday, was that the night before, his hotel bedroom had been broken into. They stole his credit cards, they stole his watch, and they stole his wedding ring. And I think that's a disgusting thing for anybody to do. I mean, stealing's bad enough, but to do it on the Tour de France for some of the riders, when they know damn well that these chaps are out here riding for 3 weeks, I think it's a nasty thing to do. And particularly take a man's wedding ring like that, his watch and his credit card. You know, I don't know what gets into some of these people. So Chris was a bit disappointed with that. And in fact, he has misfortune. I seem to remember, I think it was not long before the start of the Tour de France last year when he parked his car on the drive in front of the house, and that was broken into, and his attaché case was stolen, again with lots of like credit cards and that sort of thing inside it. So Chris, doubly unfortunate. But let's go back to what happened yesterday. Berzin first, Ries second, 35 seconds down in second spot. Olano was in third spot at 45 seconds. Tony Rominger, 1 minute and 1 second down. Just imagine that. A superb time trial and record holder. Tony Rominger, the Swiss man riding for the MAPE team, 1 minute and 1 second down on Avenji Berzin. That was in the time trial yesterday. Miguel Indurain really stormed up the mountain. He looked like he was struggling, but he finished in fifth spot. He was race leader for some time, and he came through in 1 minute and 1 second, just equal with Rominger. Jan Ulrich, the ex-world champion, riding very strongly for Telecom, the German rider, sixth in 1 minute and 7 seconds. And Peter Luchtenberger, who for my money would have done very well today on this particular stage, because he rides for the Carrera, an Italian team. The Austrian, good time trial for him, 7th spot, 1 minute and 36 seconds down. Chris Boardman, I said, 8th spot, 2 minutes and 30 seconds down. Alex Zuller in 9th spot, 2:36, so Chris was ahead of him by 6 seconds. That shows that Chris is still determined to do well. And Udo Boltz was back in 10th spot, 2 minutes and 52 seconds. I was very pleased as we watch now the slow-mo action replay as Luc Leblanc on the right-hand side starts to try and get away from me. On the left-hand side, we see the Festina riders coming round too. I think we're going to see lots of people trying to get away off this one. Veronk is just behind Leblanc at that moment. The two of them the day before yesterday had their little comeuppances between them. They sort of fell out on that stage when finally Luc Leblanc went away to take the stage victory. He really has come back from the dead, for want of a better expression. He was in very bad physical shape last year. Had to have an operation, this man on the right-hand side of the screen, riding for Pulte. There was something wrong with his back, and they had to work on it. And in the end, I think one of his legs was slightly shorter than the others. It's a strange character. One time he wanted to be a priest. I don't know, a priest or a bike racer. Some people have some strange ambitions, do they? Bike racers and priests. Well, the fellow you just saw on your screen, Luc Leblanc, has recovered after having a disastrous season as world champion. And Pulte have worked on him during the winter. He's gone to a new coach. He went off to an Italian team. The French didn't like it, although nobody's really running around offering a wad of French francs for him to sign on. They don't like so many of their top or nearly top riders or ex-top riders drifting off to other countries. But Leblanc has been riding very well indeed since he went to the Italians. And people say, well, why are these Italians so good? Have they got some super way in which they get themselves into form like this? The answer is they are looked after very well by doctors. They're given training programs. All their heart beats are measured. Their blood content is measured. Their training is measured totally, and they go through a tremendous training routine, and they set certain objectives, very clear objectives, during the season, and they train for those objectives as such. And that's what enables them also, by starting earlier than most of the other riders used to do. They start to training around about November, December, when most of the riders said, I've had enough of the season and maybe have a bit of a break. Some of them start training for early season. Others don't. They go perhaps off on holiday somewhere, then come back in the spring and start training again. That's why the Italians can keep bringing so much talent up into the cycle racing scene. So that's our top 10 I just went through for you then. Berzin, Rees, Solana, Rominger, Indurain, Ulich, Luttenberger, Boardman, Zuller and Bolts. And talking to Chris yesterday, if you didn't hear our programme, I was so pleased to hear him say his ambition is to get to Paris, because he could take it at some point to climb off his bike and just go off to Atlanta and train for the time trial and the pursuit, because he's the reigning Olympic pursuit champion. But Chris is determined to get to Paris. You could see it the way he's talking yesterday after all the strain of riding up that mountain in the time trial. And I just thought, if he's going to get it there, as he looks now he's going to, barring some sort of physical problems, then we're going to promote during the next couple of weeks. I certainly am. But lots of you Brits out there, get yourself a quick trip across, because the earlier you book, the cheaper you can go. I mean, get in the old tunnel, train as quick as you can do. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You can stay overnight on the Saturday, get some good deals off your travel agent, make a little party of it and come across and show Chris that we're right behind him, because he's in a sterling performance to ride in this Tour de France. He's had so many successes in the smaller races now. He's put himself at risk, really, I suppose, his great reputation, by riding against the top men in the Tour. But you have to start somewhere, and Chris right now is on that learning curve, and I'm very pleased to hear him say yes, that he's determined to get to Paris. That's great then. Looking now at the riders, they're going to be virtually climbing up to the top of this Col de Mont Genèvre. That's why the polka dot jersey is near the front. Sorry about little picture problems. I hope you'll sort of bear with us when we're having these difficulties. It is live television, and with the problems that the television people have had, you can see the clouds up there. They're doing their best to keep you in touch. We'll do what we can with our commentary as well, and I hope you'll stay with us after this break for more action from the Tour de France. And still on his own then, having taken off about a couple of kilometres from the top of the Col de Mont Genèvre on this shortened stage in the Tour de France. Bjorn Rees, who started this morning 43 seconds down on that man there in the yellow jersey. And in fact, 32 seconds is the gap now. It was 34. Berzin is working hard here, and is certainly pulling back that lead that Rees has established in the last, 10 kilometres or so. He's not your natural climber, this man, Rees, as you can see by looking at the size of him. He's one of these big, heavy fellows that's got a lot of power there. And he really rode himself into the ground yesterday in the time trial, and sensibly, as you can see here, look, he's got his knees well padded over with those elastic bandages just to make sure that his kneecaps don't get too cold, because that's one of the problems. It goes straight through and gets what we used to call in England Easter knees. This is Indurain, still determined to stay in there. So we've got Guarini, and I think that's LeBlanc as well there. 40 seconds is the gap they've got now. Well, that wasn't the one I've had on my headphone, but that means he's got 3 seconds to go beyond Rees to take over the yellow jersey. The road goes, as you can see, fairly smoothly. It's a good rolling climb. It's a good hard one. It's not really for your mountain goats. It's a pressure climb all the way up. And Berzin on the front at the moment. I'm just listening to what's happening on the race radio at the moment, but certainly there's Olano's attacked. Olano's attacked. He probably thought that Berzin wasn't doing enough to pull back Bjorn Rees, and he's put the pressure on now, and that, in fact, as far as Mappe is concerned, has helped Rominger further back, because Rominger and Olano, if we look at the top, dozen rides or so, we've got 2 from Mappe, Olano and Rominger. We've got 2 from Festina, Varonk and Duffield. They're both in this group at the moment. We've got 3 from Telecom, Bjorn Rees, who's away up the road, Ulrich from Telecom, and also Udo Boltz from Telecom, who's a bit further down the general classification, but nevertheless is in their little group at the moment. 15 seconds back to Brochard and Chris Boardman at the moment. So Chris is hanging on for grim death, 15 seconds back on this group. And Jalabert 2 minutes and 10 seconds behind this group. Jalabert is taking an awful thrashing in the Tour this year. What a disappointment, because the French hoped that he would have the form. He's been going so well in the early part of the year that he might be able to do well in the Tour de France, but Jalabert is losing even more time. And this morning, Jalabert was 17 minutes and 54 seconds down on that yellow jersey. He's losing a lot more time today as well. Mappe in the shape of Olano here, putting the pressure on. He and his team leader, Tony Rominger, start this morning 45 seconds and 1 minute and 5 seconds respectively down on the yellow jersey. There a view of Prudencio Indurain, the brother of the bold Miguel. So he's also in the group. There's his brother there with one on his back. That's Luc Leblanc on 111. Dufo just ahead of him. Then we've got the 2 Telecom riders, including Ulrich. And now they've changed. They've shaken the pack again, the Mappe ride. They've sent Fernandez Gines, the champion, down the road to chase back Bjorn Rees, who's trying so hard to get that yellow jersey. Well, it may be short and sharp, but my goodness, it's full of action today. This and actually is going to help, but I'm a little bit surprised about the tactics. I suppose nobody wants Rees to take the yellow jersey, really, because they want it for themselves as such. But on the other hand, the work that's being done by Mappe here, Fernando Gines, is certainly aiding Berzin, because the last teammate was Frattini to pull off the front. Frattini did what he could, the man who won last year the Henniger Turm, the big German classic. Frattini got blown out, trying to take Berzin up to Rees, and now Mappe taking it on. And of course they've got some very good riders here in Olano and Rominger. So far Rominger hasn't come forward to the front. Perhaps they're trying to wear Berzin out and then do the old 1-2, because they've got Gines on the front. Olano back there with, there I see Rominger in the blue with the yellowish covered sunglasses. He's just poised there, looking ever so comfortable. And it's now 41 seconds for Bjorn Rees, just 2 seconds away from taking that yellow jersey. 45 seconds I hear on my headphones now. 45 seconds. Do I hear 50? It sounds like a chap selling something, doesn't it? It's a bit like an auction going on here. Do I hear any more than 45? So he's now the yellow jersey, as that call has come from the motorcycle out there with the race. 45 seconds it is, and Mappe what's the instructions here they're giving? I think, in fact, they've said, come on, let Berzin do the work. It looks like they're saying slow down a bit. See, his hand is indicating, don't do the work. And that was something which I thought was rather surprising, that we might have had left Berzin out to fry today, and then Mappé just come round him towards the last, 3 kilometres or so, even allowing Rees to drift away. Mappé still have got a very strong team, but I suppose that Telecom, you can say, have got a strong team too. Waiting for more information on the headphones. That's it. They've slapped up the fact his yellow jersey virtual on the road at the moment. And they've let Berzin now do the work. Yep, they've put the sign 45. Berzin now knows that he's lost the yellow jersey by 2 seconds. He's got to close that gap down. And see, Mappé have just gone and sat on his wheel. Alano just behind him. And then that is number 31 is Tony Rominger. And Indurain, very sensibly, I think, he's letting this lot thrash themselves to death. He's further back down the group. You know, well, that's because he's just prepared to let them belt themselves into the ground or not, and then come storming past them. I just don't know. Or maybe he's under pressure again. But all will reveal as we get closer toward the top of the climb today. Bjorn Rees, you could see on his face that determination to get that yellow jersey. 32 years of age, comes from Herning in Denmark. Married with a couple of children, and he's been a pro for 10 years now. And that's why I was so pleased to hear Chris Boardman say he wanted to last this course and get to Paris, because you don't suddenly come in at the top. You've got to ride and ride and ride, get the experience, and that was a very experienced man down there. Yet again, Mappé are attacking. Alano pedaling quite a small gear as they're coming up now with 5 kilometres to go to the finish. The road curling its way round the edge of the mountain up towards the ski resort. Inside 5 kilometres for Bjorn Rees. This is the man who frightened the pants off Indurain last year in the Huit-Sorang time trial stage, the Tour de France, when he was 5 seconds ahead of Indurain at 49 kilometres and fade the last 5 kilometres to finish 12 seconds back on him. Bjorn Rees down the road now. Virtual yellow jersey. There are the officials telling the Mappé team car to get the hell out of it. But they're trying to give instructions to their riders, and they've got 3 of them in this group here. But the yellow jersey might well go off the shoulders of Berzin unless they can go that bit quicker. And there they are, 5 kilometres to go. And the latest call we've got is 50 seconds. 50 seconds is the gap. 5 kilometres to go and 50 seconds a gap. They've got to pull it back at 10 seconds per kilometre. Somehow I don't think they're going to catch Rees unless he blows up. But the question is, will this man lose his yellow jersey to the Danish Viking invader, who's now climbing up this hill, so determined? 2 days ago, he launched an attack, nearly 100 kilometres from the finish, and his team manager told him to go back in the bunch. It was just a sensible thing to do. Keep his powder dry for later. Well, this is the occasion. He tried so hard to win the time trial stage yesterday. And now today he's showing his sheer strength. The man who was in 5th place in the Tour de France in 1993. He took 3rd place in 1995. He's now looking for that yellow jersey. Four kilometres to go for the man who drives a Porsche 928, and he's got to get this thing really into overdrive now to keep that gap that he's got, which has got him virtually into the yellow jersey. And the board's still showing 45. We did have 50 seconds, the gap. Well, he was asked actually some time ago, Rees, what was his title he'd like to be known as at some time. He says, Bjorn Rees, winner of the Tour de France and champion of the world. Well, the way he's going now, he might well take that yellow jersey. Attack has come from Luttenberger. Luttenberger's rocketed away now. 4 kilometres to go. 4 kilometres for this man Luttenberger. Has he left it too late? I thought one of the mountain goats might start to attack at some point. They've got the ability to claw back absolute seconds on the final 2 kilometres, but 4 kilometres to go might be too late for this lightly built man from the Carrera team. He's eased back a bit now, thinking he's more, and then on the left-hand side, then Leblanc starts to go. Leblanc has gone away as well. This has broken the rhythm as far as Berzin's concerned. It may give an opportunity to get onto a wheel, but they're coming round him. Oh, it's Guarini, my mistake. They shouted Leblanc in my headphones, and I thought perhaps they'd recognise. The trouble is, they look so similar. Both of them wear the crash hat, stuck on the back of the heads, rather than tip forward a bit. It makes it very difficult to pick out who's who. But then Luttenberger coming back at him, and on his wheel of Luttenberger is Veronk in the King of the Mountains jersey. Luttenberger tried and failed. Veronk, has he got the speed to come off? Berzin is further back in this group at the moment. Where's Berzin? He's been distanced. Berzin now has been dropped off this group. The yellow jersey can't stand the pace. The jumping around that's going on has caused the other jersey to lose contact with this group. All hell's going to let loose now, because certainly Alano, Rominger, Ulrich and Luttenberger are in this group, knowing the yellow jersey's gone, are going to absolutely bury themselves. Well, I tipped Berzin as the likely winner of the Tour overall, but he's showing now a weakness then, after only having the yellow jersey on his shoulder for a couple of days, and he just couldn't hold the pace. Mind you, hasn't got a very strong team at all, nor this man here, Luttenberger, but he's a natural-born climber, is Luttenberger, winner of the Tour of Switzerland. The gap is coming down now to 40 seconds, but don't forget that the yellow jersey is losing time. I'm going to get my watch out here to check the gap back from the victor to the yellow jersey when they go across the line. Well, we haven't seen a long stay today, but we've seen a fascinating one right the way through. There he is. He launched the attack way down the road, did Rees. Has he gone too soon now? And there, Escartine in the green shorts, and just behind him is Indurain, who's managed to hang on. And there, Alano's been blown out the back. What a great race we've got here today. Looking down there as well, that's Pipuli of a Refin team trying to get back up on there. Indurain's losing. In fact, Indurain goes round the outside now. Indurain is attacking. Well, what a comeback from Indurain. He's gone right because he knows the yellow jersey's further down the road. 55 seconds is the gap now, as Indurain, who took an awful pacing 2 days ago, has now gone on the front, and that familiar style, hands in the centre of the bar, the big legs ploughing a big gear round, clawing his way up the mountain. He's going to show everybody he's not dead yet. He wants that yellow jersey on the way into Pamplona, and if he doesn't get it there, we've still got that time trial, that 60-kilometre time trial to come at Bordeaux to Saint-Emilion, and he might still be in yellow at the end in Paris. But everything is up for grabs in this Tour, the best we've seen for many, many years. Indurain now ploughing after Bjorn Rees. Luttenberger, Leblanc, Veronk, and this is the man they're chasing down. There you see in the distance that tower, looks a bit like the Rotunda in Birmingham, but this one's still being used by people that live in rather than used as offices. That's one of the early towers they put up at Sestriere before it really became as popular as it is now at the ski resort. The gap then will be coming up after this 2 kilometre point. So there he goes at the moment. Rees on his way up to try and win the stage. Inside the final 2 kilometres of Bjorn Rees, the yellow jersey has been blown out the back of this group. Indurain is putting the pressure on. Luttenberger behind him. The clocks are running to see what the time will be under that 2 kilometre banner. It could be that Rees will get the stage, but will he get the yellow jersey? It's highly probable now, because Rees has opened up an enormous gap on Berzin, who's way down the mountain. So who's going to shake the rest of the pack? And that is only 36 seconds the gap. 36 seconds. So now, but where was Berzin? He was even further back than that, Berzin. We can't see him through the crowd here. I'm waiting for it to come off my headphones, but they haven't got it yet. all the interest then is on the man winning the stage here. But it looks like Berzin is dropping off. That is 32 seconds, they say. Well, all right, 2 or 3 seconds. Who's counting except between Bjorn Ries and the yellow jersey. As LeBlanc has another go. He's got to come at him very quickly indeed. They haven't taken much out of Ries, maybe about 10 seconds in a kilometre. And now I think somehow that the final 2 kilometres. Oh, the gap to Berzin, 1 minute and 7 seconds. That's it. The yellow jersey will have gone off the shoulder of Berzin. He looked under all sorts of pressure, so he will now lose that yellow jersey. Bjorn Ries could be the man to get it because he's the best place on the road at the moment. Abram Milano this morning was 45 seconds on Ries. He's not held his wheel at all now. But as far as LeBlanc is concerned, I don't think he's going to catch Ries unless Ries blows up, but he's determined here to get a good second place on the stage. Overall in general classification, LeBlanc, having crashed in Holland, is really out of contention for a top place. But he's trying to close that gap down as best he can do. He won't find himself in the top 3 in Paris, but he's certainly giving everybody here the message that he's back with a bang. 1 kilometre to go for Bjorn Ries. It goes up and up, it's gradually going all the way, and then when he gets near the top, it'll actually begin to flatten out a bit more. And LeBlanc is after him now. What is the gap? There is the 1 kilometre to go in the background, and somehow he's got to get close to Bjorn Ries, but it doesn't go up too steep. In fact, it flattens out a little bit and drops down the last 300 metres. So Ries will be able to, I think, get his breath back, put into big gear. The gap now 31 seconds to LeBlanc. He's not going to catch Ries in that final kilometre. So Ries then will come through here to take the victory. But the question is, how far back will be Berzin? How far down the general classification will he go? Because certainly Rominger now has come up to Indurain. Rominger at the moment on 4th place on general classification. So what he's trying to do now, his teammate Alano was above him this morning. Alano has been blasted out as well, so looks like Rominger might go into 2nd place overall on general classification behind Bjorn Ries. Berzin dropping down quite a bit this morning. Rominger was 1 minute and 8 seconds behind Berzin, so he might still be able to move up into a 2nd spot. There's a tremendous race we got today, but Bjorn Ries is going to write his name into history as being a man who's finished at his famous ski resort of Sestriere in Italy. The Danish rider riding for a German team, the Telecom team. You can see it written all over his face. He was determined to get the yellow jersey. He's certainly going to get the stage, but I don't think he's going to be, I think so as he goes through, he's going to come through here now to take the yellow jersey and the stage. That was a tremendous performance then for Berzin, now blown out of contention. Ries will take the jersey, Ries will take the stage, but the question is, who will take 2nd spot? Because Berzin is really struggling then. What a day this man has had today. Looking to be absolutely exhausted, but he's made it. Stage victory and the yellow jersey for Bjorn Ries of Denmark. 3rd last year in the Tour de France. But LeBlanc comes in. Watch on the left-hand side. He had 43 seconds on Berzin this morning. Can he come back? Will Berzin come back? He's got 43 seconds to do it in somehow. I don't think so, as Rominger crosses the line. The gap between Rominger and the yellow jersey is also important, as in comes the Telecom riders. Ulrich has made a good ride today. Escarting going over the line as well. And there, Luttenberger, 43 seconds to this man. He's lost the jersey. There on his screen, it shows 49. But will Rominger have moved up a bit above him? 1 minute and 8 seconds separated Rominger from Berzin this morning. As he comes through now, 58, 59. That's 1 minute. He's got 8 seconds to maintain 2nd spot. Otherwise, it goes to Rominger. According to my unofficial calculations here, 7, 8. And it looks like he's lost 2nd place as well to Tony Rominger. We'll have to stand for correction on that one, but Abram Milano had 45 seconds on Rominger. Oh, in fact, he might go second, that's right. Olano's second, Rominger third now. He's dropped probably back into fourth spot overall. So, what a stage we've had today. I didn't actually check between Olano and Rominger, but they start this morning just 20-odd seconds apart. So it could be that Olano is just in second spot, Bjorn Ries first, Rominger third. But the second and third spot between Olano and Rominger, it'll need a very close attention to the time published at the end to discover who's actually got their second or third spot. But Bjorn Ries certainly has taken the yellow jersey off Berzin and got the stage victory as well. And there is Chris Boardman coming in. He's kept his deficit down to 2 minutes and 7 seconds. A spirited performance again for Rominger, for Berzin. Sorry, for Chris Boardman. I'm saying Berzin, I'm looking, he's right off his commentary point at the moment. He looks very drawn indeed, and the smiles that were on his face a couple of days ago are now giving way to disappointment after that very fast but very cold stage up to the finish at Sestriere. And look what a damage it's done to the rest of the ride in 46 kilometres. Just 46 kilometres racing today. They did it in 1 hour and 10 minutes. They had a falling wind, 2 mountains to climb, and what an exciting stage we've had today as Bjorn Ries behind the podium prepares himself for the presentation on the rostrum as stage victor. And I'm just looking at my headphones to see if we can get second and third, but certainly Ries has got the jersey and the stage victory today, so I'll have to wait to see when they put the provisional up on our screens here. Maros in the centre there, coming in behind the two Rabat riders, and a great gaggle of riders coming. In fact, I haven't seen Zuller, and if he's in the midst of this one, it's Zuller. He's taken an awful dive today, Zuller, 3:39, wow! Bjorn Ries going up on the podium to receive the applause of the crowd who've been waiting patiently for the finish of this stage, which was shortened today by virtue of the terrible weather conditions that stopped the riders taking the whole 189 kilometres into account. And my goodness, I bet she's cold there. Everybody's freezing, and they've come up, the Coca-Cola girls, with nothing on their arm. Run, go and give them a big hug, Bjorn. Still, he's breathing heavily after that 1 hour and 10 minutes of furious activity from the start down in the valley at Les Montiers-les-Bains for the last 46 kilometres. And there you can see the provisional result of the stage on your screen. But of more interest, apart from the fact that Ries took the stage, he's taken the yellow jersey too. Indurain just showing still that he's got some life left in him at 29 seconds in 5th spot. Rominger rocketed round him, but I don't think Rominger was sufficiently far enough from Olano to move into second spot. Not that I worry too much, they're from the same team anyway. And there you can see on your screen these riders coming in here. Got 7 minutes and 20 seconds down. That all happened in 46 kilometres. Yet again, out comes the presentation, and this time it's going to be the girls from the Credit Lyonnais to present the yellow jersey, and they certainly are better kitted out, I think, for the weather conditions than the other two we just saw up there at the moment. Amongst these girls there, they've got Marie Vincent, born in Nantes, studying law at University in Paris, who's one of the girls up there alongside him, and Karin Lopen from Holland University. Well, this man taught them all a lesson today. Bjorn Ries let slip. It was Evan for himself today. Team tactics partly came into it, but it was just an absolute blast from the start. 1 hour and 10 minutes of furious activity. Ries taking that stage and the jersey, and it shows. They said, what I'm waiting for, Berzin, oh, still there. I I thought he dropped down out of third spot, but he's still just there, so my apologies then to Alano supporters. I thought that perhaps they'd done enough, but so Berzin still in second spot and Rominger back in third. So Alano must have been third. There's Jalabert, look at that, 8:41 down. Ooh, dear me. Another bad day. But the polka dot jersey still on the shoulders of Richard Baronk. And I mentioned before, if you look at the jersey when he puts it on, you see a little black tick up on the shoulders. They've got the Nike people this year providing the jerseys, and they actually spending much of time getting that little tick down, I think, because they've got all the vehicles in the tour. They're all black ones as such, and you can't see the word Nike written anywhere. It's got the tick all over the place. That's either very clever or making life difficult for the people on the road. But whatever it is, they provide some nice jerseys ever, and these are the polka dot jersey, a very famous one that's been around since 1975 now. The polka dot jersey was first introduced in the Tour de France. Very famous jersey indeed, and yet again it's on the shoulder of Richard Baronk. He's had it before. He's had it right the way through to Paris as well. We've still got some big mountain of stuff to come yet, but he doesn't look like flagging at the moment. Richard Baronk of Festina, the king of the mountains. Missed the opportunity of the big climbs today, which were there before the snow fell overnight and ruined the whole day. This has been a very eventful Tour de France. 8 days of rain. I'll say the lads have got look like sometimes rust on the legs now after they've had some terrible conditions, but nevertheless we've had some great racing every day once they've put the hammer down. The early two stages when they were parading around and racing towards the end, you can understand it because of the bad road conditions and the damp weather, what have you, but in the sprints we saw some exciting sprinting. The sprinters have to survive the mountains. This man's still surviving there, Moncassin, to keep the green jersey. He's 84th overall in general classification, 48 minutes and 49 seconds down, as the young girls here from PMU, that's the French equivalent of the tote, setting him up, and there they go. They stayed at our hotel the other night, these girls. Thousands of people travelling all over the countryside with this race, and there you can see the joy written all over the Frenchmen. They dominated the race so far in the early parts of the Tour de France, but now the hill climbers are taking over, and while Dr. Blanc has had his stage victory, the yellow jersey has gone off the shoulder of a Russian, onto the shoulders of a Danish rider. It certainly has been a cracking race so far. Once again, to look at the result of the stage, Alano at 54 seconds, Rominger at 28. I still don't see how they've got Rominger ahead of Alano on general classification, but I'll have to live with that one. I don't think there's enough gap there, but there we are. Berzin at 42nd, Rominger third, Alano fourth, Ulrich fifth, Luttenberger sixth, and Baronk back into seventh spot. Nice to see some new names up there, by the way. Alano, Ulrich, Luttenberger in the Tour de France. We've seen many other ones having a go, but right now we've got some new names, Alano, Ulrich and Luttenberger, appearing up in the top 10 in this year's race. Very interesting. So stage 10 of the Tour de France, the wind has just blown my papers right across and upside down, was full of drama yet again. You're looking here at a very sorry Laurent Jalabert, who climbed off his bike. He'd gone over the climb of the Mont Genèvre. He'd been lost, lashèd I think is the real word, off the back of the group. He looked in all sorts of trouble. He tried to keep on going, but finally he called a halt after 69 kilometres of racing today. The race had actually started slightly earlier today because of the conditions. They thought the wind was going to blow against the riders, but in fact, as they've gone further along the course, the wind has gone over their right shoulders and the speed has gone up, and it's fast and furious. So let me put you in the picture of the rest of the action we've had so far on the stage. When we came out of Turin, it wasn't long before Jackie Durand, who's well known for his long abortive attempts to crack fields by going off on his own. Well, he galloped off very quickly and went down the road just after we'd had the first sprint of the day at Quasar den Saint-Michel, where Jalabert was first. Zabel was first. And I'm just pausing to let you see that on the map there, that's the little route they've just taken. And they've got to that little blue bit just dropped down. In fact, looking on the screen now, I recognise just that little house in the background. There's a very nice pizza bar there. I stopped off here and had a short sort of repas on the way through, so deciding likewise that as this was a feeding station, a nice little spot to stop on the way through to the finish. And we're all gathered here, Peter Voigt and Rudy Altig and myself. And there you see the result of the Col de Montgenèvre. Veronk 30 points, Ugrimov 26 points and Ulrich 22 points. That doesn't tell all the story though, as we're rocketing along here on this lovely lakeside, and they're going to go later on over another enormously big lake, and I'll tell you more about that when we finally get there. But the finish station, which the riders are now going through, is at 129 kilometres of racing. They should have been here 25 miles an hour at 3:15, so they're about 10 minutes up on schedule compared with the time which has been published, because they did in fact start the race slightly early. We're now looking at the breakaway group of 3 men, and just checking here on my screen what the last time check it was, 2 minutes 30 seconds. It was 3:10 at the top of the climb, so our picture jumped backwards and forwards, and I've been trying to put you in the picture likewise. Let me go back and confirm what has happened today, as we now ID'd and picked up these 3 leaders. Veronk there in the polka dot jersey, Ulrich at the back, who's doing sweet nothing to stay with this group, and Veronk is saying, come on, you better get stuck in and do something. But of course he's not going to, is he? He rides for Telecom. Bjorn Ries is in yellow, and so it's up to Veronk and Ugrimov. And the gap now 1 minute and 30 seconds. It's coming down. I wouldn't have thought they'd stay away with a passenger like Ulrich. And really up in front there, Ugrimov is a first-class climber, but on these faster sections here it needs, I think, about 3 or 4 more men to keep the effervescent Veronk and the nitty-gritty fella here, Ugrimov, on the front of these little 3-man breakaway group, out of the snapping heels of or snapping jaws of the peloton behind. So it looks like it might be all over. We shall wait and see. That's Ugrimov. They went away, these two, as they climbed up the Montgenèvre, and they took with them Ulrich and Madoua. And this is the man who went over the top in first spot to protect that polka dot jersey. They're not going to give him far down the road, are they? 3 minutes 39 seconds down. He's always full of ambition, this fella, but tactically he wouldn't get much out of by going that far. See, Ulrich here just sitting on. He's not going to chase this one down. Also well placed, he fifth at 1 minute 38 seconds, so technically on the road he was the new yellow jersey, because the maximum lead they had was 3 minutes and 10 seconds at the top of the climb of the Montgenèvre. So how'd they get there? Well, let's go back to what's happened today. So the first sprint at 29 kilometres, Zabel was first, Montcassin, the fellow in the green points jersey, second, Magnin was third. They ploughed on after the bold Jackie Durand and finally caught him after 64 kilometres of racing, and by then he'd had 21 kilometres in the lead with a maximum lead of 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Most of the chasing had been done by the MAPE team, which you see they've got a couple of their riders on the front at the moment, followed by Benesto as such, and they were the chaps who did most of the damage to finally catch Jackie Durand at the 64 kilometre point. The Montgenèvre, which was 95 kilometres into the stage, as they climbed that one, that began to take its toll on some of the tired legs of many of these riders. And I said to you earlier on, Jalabert slid off the back and finally climbed off his bike, and that was that. Jalabert going at 69 kilometres, and he called it a day, so he was out in the race. On the climb, the attack of the 3 riders we see here, Veronk, Ugrimov and Ulrich. They also had Madoua for company as well. Well, he couldn't hold the pace on the top of the climb, and he was something about 30 seconds down and was soon on his way back into the bunch. But the 2 chaps, Ugrimov and Veronk, with this passenger here, pressed on down the other side. A very, very fast descent it was, off the top of the summit
of the Mont Genèvre, and right now the gap is coming down, but they're persisting. They don't seem to be going quite as punchy as they were earlier on during the race. But so this little group then with a lead of no more than about 1.5 minutes could well be caught after their attempts on that first big climb of the day. Ugramov on the front, Veronk following, and our camera can now pick up the group here, and before the helicopter came down a bit, you could see the escapers in the top right-hand corner. So there Bjorn Ries in the yellow jersey with the telecoms round about him. Interesting day we've got today, because let me just take you through confirmation there as Bjorn Ries of Denmark is the overall leader. His lead coming into this stage today is just 40 seconds on Berzin, who was, of course, the yellow jersey leader up until that disastrous day into... Well, I just had on race show, by the way, the gap now is 1 minute. Madouas sat in there, he was one who went earlier on. The fellow here with the flowing blonde locks and the blue and white hat, that's Venzi Berzin, who, although he's a Russian, now lives up in the northern part of Italy. Though we're now back on French soil, he knows many of these roads up here, and the gap then confirmed, which we had on our race radio, at 1 minute. So going back then to general classification at the moment, Berzin 40 seconds down in his second spot. Tony Rominger in that little group there is at 53 seconds. Alano is at 56 seconds in fourth spot. Jan Ullrich, the fellow we've seen down the road there, and you saw on the screen that he's 1 minute 38 seconds down in fifth. Luttenberger, the career rider, the Austrian, is in sixth spot at 2:38. And Veronk on your screen now, seventh at 3 minutes and 39 seconds. Indurain back in that pack, we saw him briefly, in eighth spot, 4 minutes and 38 seconds. And you see there we've got 72 kilometres to go to the finish. So about another couple of hours of racing, I suppose, before they hit the finish line. So we could have an early finish today, which is going to be quite a surprise after the problems they've had in the race so far. And as you can see now, whilst they're having a look back, these two, I think they're going to let it knock it on the head now. The sun is shining, the weather conditions are quite good for bike racing. The wind is just over their shoulders. And as you look at them now on the left-hand side of your picture, those trees are blowing and the wind is just behind them there. So I think they're going to let the peloton come out. You see now all the following cars and the motorcycles, the pressmen are being brought forward by the officials, all in contact by race radio. They have several different, that red car inside you see there will have several different radio channels. He'll have a channel to talk to the team cars, he'll have a channel to talk to the press, he'll have a channel as well to talk on what they call the VIP line as well, when they want to keep certain things amongst the organisation itself. And inside those cars there's just a battery of equipment to keep the race in touch as it goes through. And of course race radio also comes to our finishing point here and we can hear the messages, but they've gone down the race radio to the following cars and told them to get the hell out of it, and they've now decided, well, it's lunchtime. And you can see here that Ulrich is deciding to not exactly scoot his bike along, but make sure that he's nice and flexible for the climb which is yet to come. I've given you the top 8 so far. Well, I've just heard that the medical car has been asked to come up to number 67, so let's hope he's in no great problem. Often they just want to spray on the nib. They're feeling that's Max Chandry, I think. I have to watch out for that one. If I got the number right, looks like Max has called the medical car to come up. Perhaps we might be able to talk to Laurent Madwell later on and see how his lad's going on. We'll phone back to Paris and see if they can get hold of Jim Ockovic sometime during the programme, so we can have a chat. They've got the number there somewhere, and perhaps we can find out how the old Max Chandry is at the moment. The Motorola team not exactly firing all cylinders since they lost Lance Armstrong, who's now gone back to get himself in good form for Atlanta. So I got down to 8th, didn't I, in the general classification? You're biting your fingernails there, wondering where the hell he's going to get the top 10 out. Well, the 9th man is Escartim, 4 minutes and 49 seconds down, and Laurent Duffield is in 10th spot at 5 minutes and 3 seconds. The fellow we saw in that breakaway group, Ugramov, is 5 minutes 27 seconds down in 11th spot, and 12th is LeBlanc at 7:08. Alex Zuna took an awful pasting yesterday, by the way. He came in just as we were actually taking through one of the jersey presentations. You may or may not see it yesterday on the screen, but Zuller really was way off the back yesterday. In fact, he came in 44th spot, 4 minutes and 4 seconds down. Well, the speed is on at the moment. Look at that. Really hammering along now. The speed is really up at the moment. And they've got the breakaway group, so they've now been absorbed, and I'm not quite sure that much is going to happen from now on in, because the map on the front now. This rolls fairly flatly along now, and we start to climb again towards the end of the Col de la Sentinelle, which is only 10 kilometres from the finish, the top of that one. And it's only a third category climb, but I think it's likely to do more damage than some of the longer climbs we've seen so far in the race, because many of these chaps could have quite tired legs, I would think. And if some of the little mountain goats decide to rip the thing to pieces, because tomorrow is a rest day as such, and so it'll be one opportunity for them to have a go. So with the field all back together again now after quite a lot of furious activity in the early part of the race. We're going to take a short break, but don't leave us, because this looks like being yet another interesting. Le Marchand has set the pace, and he's being approached by 3 riders. We think that Stevens, together with Fondrest and maybe Forniciari there at the moment, will be trying to close him down, and here they are. Of course, Psycho again have got to search for something, having had Cipollini knock it on the head when he wasn't feeling too well, and with Jalabert having retired today, then Zuller is way off the pace on the general classification. Means that something like Nils Stevens is always prepared to have a go on a stage like this. They want to show themselves and perhaps get a stage victory.
These big roads, they've done actually, are not actually in favour of a breakaway group, because you can see here they're very, very wide. We're some 45 kilometres now from the finish now, but when you see the big wide road, it's not up, it's not down, it's just very, very rolly roads. Even though you might have, like, Neil Stevens, an incredibly good rider when it comes down to team time trialling or riding in the front. We have Fondrest, Le Marchand. When we see here, even you can see here the Peloton is actually reacting very, very quickly behind them here, and it's very difficult to stay away under these conditions. You must remember the riders here riding at some 60 kilometres an hour here, so it's very difficult to stay away in a small group.
The gap then, 7 seconds to the 3 chasers and 15 seconds to Peloton for Le Marchand. They're going along the side then of the Lac de Serpent-Ponson, and it's a very unusual shaped lake. It's a bit like an upside down or twisted T-shape as such, and a very long one. It's fed by the Roche, which comes down into the Serpent-Ponson, and yet another tack coming off yet again. They're going to go over the Valence shortly as well, so we're going to see a lovely scenic thing, and these riders are determined to have a go all the time as well.
That's Thibaut again having a go, Dave, so we seem to have the same riders having a go all the time, so this is obviously their favourite terrain.
And there they go. So Thibaut's on his way now. In fact, when I said we're going over the barrage, we're not. In fact, the actual end of the dam is further down there. They're going over the Pont de Sabine when we get to Sabine, and over the top of this big lake of Serpent-Ponson. And a lovely sight is too. In fact, driving along it, I looked over to the left and I saw this nice little island with a semi-house come castle built on it. I thought, what a nice part of the world to live. Though I understand it can be quite cold in the winter, but in the summer it can also be baking hot round here. And the riders, I think, are going to find this wind very tricky right the way into the finish. So the lovely waters beckoning them to perhaps sit down and take a rest, but the rest won't happen until they get to Gap ahead of these riders now. And when they get along this run. Just looking here to see how far they've got towards the finish. Can't be much more than about another 30 odd kilometres to finish.
Actually, Dave, over the race radio I heard a few minutes ago, they've got 40 kilometres to go.
Oh,
but the wind seems to be changing here, Dave. 1 minute are the flags here across them where they're going with the tailwind, and 5 minutes later they're going with a headwind, so a headwind and a tailwind. But here we are, Ralph Yeoman here in front again. So we have Prudencio Indurain here also. But the riders are finding it very difficult to actually get away. It's simply because the wind is actually changing. When they attack and they get away, and there's they get the gap, it's very easy when you have a tailwind. And all of a sudden the wind changes, get a headwind, they slow down, the peloton comes back again. So the racing conditions today are very, very difficult.
So it's having Lelac, 44 kilometres to go.
Very interesting, David. Saw Miguel Indurain going through a second ago also. So very, very surprising to have Miguel actually putting his finger in here at the moment.
They're all over the place, aren't they? Not long ago they drop down here, they turn sharp right and go over the bridge. You can just you can see in the distance it's got covered up again. There they go. Everybody's in with a shout today, aren't they?
Yeah. Sorry, Dave, it wasn't Indurain. I don't think it was Indurain.
Well, you can just about see the label on that bike, Fondrest as such. I think Alec might have taken his mind off his training and bike racing so far for Fondrest to have those beautiful bikes he makes. They're lovely, very elegant bicycles with typical Italian flair. And there we go, over the bridge now.
This group here, Dave, seems to be getting a kind of a gap, but this is going to be very, very dangerous for the other riders, for the peloton, because when you have 12, 13 riders in front, they can do an awful lot of damage to a peloton behind them.
So it's about 12 men there in that little gap that just opened up.
And also you have 12, 13, maybe 13, 14 riders here, and you have nearly every team represented here, so that makes it very dangerous for behind. But just looking through the riders here, Laurent Defoe, is it, David, 74? Oh, LeBlanc is here, yeah?
Yeah, LeBlanc. I just saying.
There may not be anybody very dangerous.
There's Stevens just up in front. There is certainly a Benesso riding at the moment. Looks like Yaman going through at the moment as well. And so they're settling down here, trying to get Bogart in there as well, as already won a stage victory.
It is Defoe, Dave. Defoe is 74.
Right, and
he's
so
dangerous for
that's Bogart for the Rabobank in the white and the orange colour. This is LeBlanc. Now then, if they can get away and stay away from it, that little short, sharp climb, 10 kilometres to the finish by the time they get to top it, would suit LeBlanc to romp up that. And they could split it, but I don't think the bunch behind are going to give them too much scope at the moment. So Fondrest, LeBlanc, Stevens, Dufo are all in that leading group right now, and they're being raced by a speedboat.
I'm sure some of those buyers in the bike stars, they wouldn't mind being in that speedboat. But I can see if the Telecom riders here do keep this pace up with the crosswinds, which we're going to have coming towards the finish, there could be actually gaps forming. I just hope that, well, I don't hope, but anybody that's actually in contention for the overall or wants to actually get up there in the stage will have to stay up in the front half of the group. Although the Telecom, they seem to be having a tempo, but they are not actually going flat out, as you can see by the peloton behind. If they were going flat out, the peloton would be all in one line. So maybe they have not yet realised that Laurent Defoe is in the front, but I'm sure Laurent Defoe lost a bit of time every day in the time trial and also yesterday. But I feel that there's still a long way to go in this Tour de France. That Laurent Defoe, if he got closer to Bjorn Wies's yellow jersey, he could be a threat to them.
Well, a rundown then on the riders in that breakaway group. Fondrest, LeBlanc, Stevens, Dufo, Arrieta, that's the Benesso rider that you saw in there. Bartoli's there, Belli, Richard, Fincato, Filippi and Bertolini are the riders that are in this breakaway group at the moment. Well, I think it looks a bit too large to me, and there's a lot of riders all over the place now, so they might come back together again. Nobody seems to be closely interested. Ellie's in there as well right now, but no one seems to be, I think, too keen to keep this going, so perhaps you have another little break happening from this group we've got here. They're on the way in towards Gap, the town that's been visited 17 times in the past by the Tour de France, and what a beautiful sight that is. Well, that's the main pack. And again, Telecom on the front. and the gap is 30 seconds to this group. So
the long Defoe there was only some 5 minutes down. I know it sounds a lot, but time can go down very, very quickly.
So that's one of the riders in there. Let me give you a rundown. The gap now 38 seconds. The group includes Fondrest, Leblanc, Stevens, Duffield, Arietta, Bartoli, Belli, Richard, Fincato, Filippi, Bertolini, Ellie, Skibby, Sorensen, LeBlanc, but LeBlanc not taking much part in the action at the moment. This breakaway group of something like about 15 men, as they're in with about 40 kilometres or thereabouts to go from the finish, about just over an hour's racing, or about an hour's racing, depends how they take the final hill of the day. And the finish line at Gap, with the crowd already been together, and particularly the Bjorn Rees supporters, because he's the man in the yellow jersey over a race leader. And this is with the 18th time. The gap now got to 44 seconds then. Fincato coming through, riding for the Roslotto team. And the gap then going up again to 44 seconds now. So the finishing gap was first in 1931 when de Mouzières was the first man to finish there. It was used quite consistently after that. 1932 Leduc was the victor, 1933 Spiker, 1934 Martano, 1935 Ertz, and then a big gap in fact when Geminiani got it in 1950. It was used fairly frequently after that, 51, 53, 56 and so on. And it's been full, if I say, of names which are of no consequence. I'd be very rude to say to be like Geminiani and many people have one here, but really it falls in the midst of the race, where they're going from the Alps to the Pyrenees or Pyrenees to the Alps. Anybody coming into Gap is in a bit of no man's land, and some of the sting has often gone out of the race by the time they get to this neck of the woods, and so some of the riders who are given the opportunity of getting stage victories are not those that will be fighting out, say, the sprint stage, the flat part of the race of the Tour de France, or those who are prepared to have a go in the mountains. So we get a mixed bag of bike riders winning in Gap. 17 times it's been here, and the gap now 48 seconds. Can this group stay out there? And here's Sorensen on the front. Well, he's up in a bit of a gap himself now. Keep using this gap, by the way. It's well known to motor rallying people, by the way, often used as the central point in the Monte Carlo rally. That lies ahead of them, about 40 kilometres down the road. This bunch begin to split up. This leading group then of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 riders at the moment. As I was saying to you earlier, Stephen, I think that somehow that large group in that escape was a bit too big.
It was a bit too big, but now we have these riders here together now, Dave. Looking at them, it's impossible to say who actually could be my favourite to actually win the race, because, well, Luc Leblanc is not a sprinter. I can't see Luc Leblanc winning it. Neil Stephen is not a very good sprinter either, so that's two guys eliminated. But between Ralph Yerman and Eli and Fondriest, they're very much three very, very same riders. The three riders, that's Fondriest now. Here's Eli. There we have Sorensen, Leblanc. Then we have Sorensen. Like those three riders themselves are the very, very same tactics. They're riders that can actually attack in the final and then go and hold out the Peloton to the finish. They're very, very strong, very, very, very fast riders. So with those three riders, Sorensen's a good sprinter, Fondriest is a good sprinter, Ellie's a good sprinter. It's difficult to know who actually could win it. So it's going to be a very, very exciting finish.
Here they are. They've twitched off the main road, through the little lanes, into this little village I spoke to you about now. Everybody's very happy to have the tour go past their doorstep. I suppose they'll all talk about it tonight over dinner, and they'll like Chorges. That's a beautiful little place. And I keep saying it time and time again. So the main road goes whack straight past this little village on the left-hand side we're looking at. They're going to dap round now and go back on the main road. And all you people going off on holiday, you should always go off the main road from time to time, with now 32 kilometres to go in the race here, because it's a lovely little village. You wouldn't know it zooming down the main road. And so if you're coming on holiday in France and you're going to pack your bag sometime in August, all your good people back in home, then make a little detour occasionally.
Well, actually, Dave, I was coming in the same road myself a few minutes ago there. I stopped before being sent off the road. I said to the policeman, can you tell me, police officer, if I go to the right here or if I go straight on, which is the most direct way to Gap? He said, oh, monsieur, if you go straight on, it's 15 kilometres. I said, yes, if I go around that way, but about 200 metres more, he said.
Sounds like an Irish-French policeman to me.
He's making an issue out of it. I thought like I was going to be brought around the mountain by going in right.
Well, there it is. We had a lovely top shot then of the village, and I said, well, you've got to really come here and sample the atmosphere and so on of the people. Look at that, that's a lovely village. We went deliberately off into the village rather than the main road on the left-hand side. Great.
Dave, myself and Pat McQuaid have been talking to the Irish government and the Irish tourist industry about the Tour de France possibly coming to Ireland in 1998. Whereas, can you imagine that Ireland being on the screen there now? Look at all the opportunities that the country would have to actually promote itself throughout the world. Eurosport at the moment is going out to 108 million homes.
That's 2 million more than last week, combined number.
Well, it's inflation, Dave. But you can imagine all those homes at Eurosport alone. There's some 40-odd television companies actually following the Tour de France. So you can imagine the extent of the publicity and the coverage, and to have the Irish scenery actually on the air all over, all going into potentially going into so many homes.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed that we do go to Ireland. That's 1988 they're talking about it. So 1998, isn't it?
They're working very, very hard on it at the moment, so there's still a few people who need convincing, but at the same time, it's wouldn't say I'm confident at the moment, but it's not point of being overconfident, but at the same time, when you see the potential that it has for future tourism, not only over the next few years, but over the next 10, 15 years, it says no, you cannot put a price on it.
And there we are looking on your screen then, the gap then back 1:15 to Peloton for that leading group, with one group of riders wedged in between the two of them. So let's hope we do go to Dublin, because a very tremendous reception they'll get there. I remember all the years we had the Nissan Classic and we'd come back into Dublin at the end of it all, a great reaction. I suppose we can come around for tea at your place, can we, Stephen?
Oh yes, but it's amazing the pressure that actually, and the hype is there at the moment. Even people coming on to me every day, Stephen, what about the Tour of '98? It'd be great, won't it? It'd be great. Like it's amazing from the actual minute that it's announced that the Tour de France goes to Ireland or it goes to Rouen or whatever it goes to. From that minute on, the hype starts building up. So it's not just kind of a 2-day or 3-day promotion for a country or for a town. It's actually from the time it's announced right through until the very day, and even the same length of time again after that again, because we talk about the start of Tour de France in Holland, we talk about the Tour de France in Berlin in 1987, we talk for years after it about the Tour de France.
And this is the remnants of that second group on the road, decided to knock it on the head and go back into the main peloton, leaving just the breakaway group we've got down the road there. All the top stars are in the front of this little group. They've got themselves back together again, and that's our leading group at the moment, 2, 4, 6, 7 of them. And there you can see the strong wind which seems to be going at them now. It's a very twisty sort of course as we go in closer to Gap, and the riders here maybe be able to survive, but that little hill you see in the distance there, that's a sort of, they're not going over the top of that, but they're going to start romping up that shortly, and then when they get over the top, 10 kilometres to go to finish, and probably would suit this man LeBlanc on your screen. So Duffield, Bartoli knocked it on the head. They've now been caught.
I was actually reading in the paper this morning, Dave, that Luc Leblanc, he was calculating all the time he's lost through mechanical incidents and because of injury. If he hadn't lost the time he has lost, he would be, to this day, he would be 2 minutes and 35 seconds behind the yellow jersey of Bjorn Ries. He's having a very good Tour de France, but unfortunately he's very far down on GC at the moment, but it's strictly because of all it's unfortunate, of course, but of course the bad weather didn't help him either.
And Sorensen here also coming to form. He's been a bit quiet early in the race too as well. I haven't had a chance to speak to him as to whether he's been through a bad patch, but it does seem that some of the riders who've been missing. That's one thing about the Tour de France, isn't it, Stephen? It's going for 3 weeks, and you can go through a bad patch, you can ride on, suddenly a day comes good, and out they pop and start going, and every day we don't know what's going to happen, because suddenly on our screens a rider we've not seen before, and this today, except for LeBlanc here, we've seen getting that stage victory up to Les Arcs, and Stephen's working hard with the Onse team. Many of the riders we're seeing now on our screen we've not seen much of.
No, very, very true. But at the same time, it's yesterday was like it wasn't a very, very difficult stage. It only been 46 kilometres, but still, they all know that tomorrow is a rest day. And also, I think the fact that today is a good weather, it's actually gives a lot of the riders extra wings, and they makes them. They know today is good weather. We hadn't got a hard day yesterday. It's one of our very few chances we have of winning a stage.
Looks like Sorensen now has decided to have a go at this one and throw down the gauntlet. He's eased his way off the front of that group. Behind him then are the rest of the little group that formed as we came over that beautiful big lake to about 15, 17 men away split, and Stevens, LeBlanc, Dufo, Ellie, Sorensen, Fincato and Arrieta went away, and now Sorensen has decided to lead them and get off on his own. That is really, with 27 kilometres to go, strikes me as a bit of a one-off. 27 kilometres to go. Hey!
It is, Dave. It's a bit far out, but the Rabobank team this year, which is the team which Rob Sorensen is on, they seem to they were out of the picture for the last few days as we went through the Alps. They were very much in the picture for the first few days of the tour, getting with Nielsen winning the Combativity Award. We had Bogart winning a stage. Now we have Sorensen again. They've been very, very to the prominent in the flat stage, and here he is back again today.
That group of riders, the remnants of the 16-17 strong break we had further down the road, have now lost Sorensen off the front. He's scarped, he's gone down the road. We've got about some 25 kilometres to go. The wind seems to be changing direction here at the finish at Gap, where the sun is shining, and we've had already an exciting day's racing. The crowd has been to gather. The Danes are over there ready to see if the yellow jersey will still come in on the shoulders of Bjorn Ries. He started this morning with a lead of 40 seconds on Evenge Berzin and 53 seconds on Tony Rominger, but this leading break is beginning to split up all over the place.
Play with Adidas and Eurosport, and you could win a trip for two to the Streetball World Championship in Budapest. You can also win Adidas sunglasses and subscriptions to the magazine FIBA Monthly. Call the Eurosport hotline now. Good luck.
See you at the World Finals in Budapest.
Back to the Tour de France with Coca-Cola. Always for the fans.
So it's Sorensen in the lead at the moment then on this stage from Turin to Gap, 208 kilometres. The first piece of action after 29 kilometres was when Zabel went away and got the first of the sprints of the day, just ahead of Moncassin, Magnin into third spot. That was Cuesa del San Michel where that took place, and here we see on the final climb of the day the attempts by Sorensen to stay away, but Roche is cutting back at him now in the main field there. We had the first big climb of the day after 129 kilometres up the Mont Ginevra. Veronk went over the top of there with Ugramov, Ulrich and Madouas in that order. They had a lead of some 3 minutes on the top of the climb. They'd broken it apart on the way up after having brought back the bold Jackie Durand, who'd been on his own for 21 kilometres, and Jackie had in fact had a maximum lead at one time of 3 minutes and 50 seconds. So when Durand was caught, the attacks came thick and fast, and it was the climb up the first category hill of the mountain of Mont Ginevra where that four-man group went away. The Gap then coming back on your screens for this final climb of the day. Now the interesting thing on the Mont Ginevra was that Jalabert got blown out the back and climbed off. So the great French hope is now in the back wagon, or his team car at the back. He's out the race. Brunel is out the race. He's retired as well. Fairly fast day today as far as the riders are concerned, and Veronk, Ugramov, Ulrich and Madouas, they shed Madouas. They went down the other side of the mountain on the flat part of the road. Ulrich was just a passenger riding for Telecom, which is the team of Ries, who is the overall race leader, and so it was when they regrouped down the bottom. Lots of groups started to go away. They were in one big pack as we came into the sprint at 155 kilometres when Zabel again won that sprint. Moncassin was second, and Bolts was in third spot. So in fact Zabel, taking two of the sprints today as we get toward the top of this climb, has now narrowed the gap on Moncassin in the green jersey. He's got 12 points today to Moncassin's 8, and they start out today separated by just 10 points in the battle for the green jersey. So as we go into the rest day, the green jersey might be up for grabs at the end of the day today. So no wonder the Telecom boys are trying to pull this thing back. But at the moment, Sorensen is down the road, Brochard is on his own, and the main pack is splitting on the climb. When they get over the top here, 8 kilometres to finish in Gap.
I can see Brochard coming back onto Sorensen. If Brochard can only catch Sorensen here, Dave, you can just see him now in the front, only some 150, 200 metres ahead of him. It'd make a very, very good tandem for the two of them to go to the finish. But then it'll also depend on what's going to happen behind. It depends if the Telecom are going to continue riding behind to catch them. But because you must remember, Telecom at the moment, they have the yellow jersey, they have the team classification, they're working for the green jersey. If they try and be too greedy and try going for every stage win also, they'll make themselves very, very unpopular amongst the other riders. And of course, going into the Pyrenees next week and then the Massif Central, they need as many allies as they can. So to start getting everybody's nerves, but try to win everything and leaving nothing else for the weaker teams, it could go against them.
A few crumbs on Masters table. Well, looks like Brochard's going to be snaffled up now by the big group coming behind Sorensen's lead. The last check we had was some 20 seconds on Brochard. I think the screen showed 14, but certainly he's going to get this climb now. And once you're over the top of this one, it's all downhill and a big rush in towards the finish. And so let's see, 10 kilometres to go at the top of this one. I said 8 before, I'm sorry, it's 10 kilometres to go. The average at the moment at 39 kilometres per hour, 25 miles an hour. And you see Veronk come through here. He wants to get some more points at Kingdom Mountain. He's done just that. They got toward the top with 10 kilometres to go, and there he is over the line in his second spot. He now eases back. The Telecom boys go round about him, and so now Sorensen goes down the other side. It's all Lombard straight to China Orange. Can he stay out there and get the victory?
Sorensen being the incredible pursuer, he has a slight chance of staying away, but it depends really on how eager the Telecom team are to get Sorensen back and prepare the terrain for Zabel, because like at the same time by riding and chasing down Sorensen, there's no guarantee that Zabel is going to even win. Imagine if they ride their hearts out to catch Sorensen and Zabel does not win and Moncassin wins, for example. Sorensen's not going to be very happy and his team are not going to be very happy. So like I said, they can end up putting riders against them rather than having them with them.
Well, let's watch this chase then. Can they close the gap on Sorensen?
Oh, very, very. Someone's going very, very wide there, Dave. It looks like
it's one of the
Bogarts. It looks like
the Festina team. It is.
Festina. Yep. Brochard, would say it's Brochard's
being called though. No, it's changed. No, it's been changed now. It could be Duffield at the front because certainly Brochard's gone back into the pack now. But don't forget, Sorensen is down the road, dropping on his own. The rest of the field here following the leader. Now that's the coach. They had to back that coach down about 2 kilometres. When I came down the hill, the police were backing it off. He had nowhere to park. He held everything up. So inside the final 10 kilometres to go, the Col de la Sentinelle, the result was Sorensen in first spot, Veronk over second, Ulrich third, Rees fourth, Dufo in fifth. That was the gap. That was the points at the top of the climb. And now they're on their way down to the finish at Gap, where the big crowd is waiting, hoping to see perhaps the Danish victory. The Danes opposite to us here with Sorensen still hanging on for grim death.
That's one sight you very rarely see in this Tour de France, Dave, is the actual tarmac at them starting to melt. I'm sure the riders will be very, very happy with that sight.
Makes a change from the ice pile on the road.
But actually, Dave, yesterday on top of the Galibier there was -1 degrees. After the Galibier it was 14 degrees. At Sestriere was -3. And last night in Turin it was 26 degrees, Dave.
So the sun is shining on the backs of these riders on the stage from Turin to Gap. Turin, the big centre of the manufacturing of Fiat motor cars, who once again are big main sponsors in the Tour de France. They've been supporting the race for many years now, and they've provided all the vehicles that the officials use, and many of the teams, all the teams are supplied with Fiat cars. 8 years that Fiat have been in the Tour de France now, and they supply no less than 360 legacy vehicles to the Tour. So they have been constant supporters of this race. I seem to remember, in fact, Turin, where the race started from this morning, was where they had that Italian job was shot when little Mini Coopers went rocketing round and performed great stunts for all to see. But still, Turin this morning, the start, and now who's going to win the stage into Gap?
And you see Sorens there going down the set. Look at that cornering, Dave. Look at how near to the edge he is. He's using every millimetre of the road, Dave. He's just possessed now. He's gone for the last 25 kilometres on his own, and he's saying to himself now, well, I don't want to be cut now. You see Bjorn Rees there lying in second position. Sorensen just wants to stay away. He wants this victory.
Well, Rees is also a mad descender. We're watching again in slow motion. Just hold your breath and turn Granny's face to the wall. This is a bit tight, this one.
Very, very tight, Dave, at the exit of that corner.
So he's still on his way down and staying away from that main group. Sorensen trying desperately to stay away. The gaps we had last time was around about, we haven't given us one since they've got over the top of the climb, but there we are. 12 seconds. Ask the question, you ask a question, you get the answer. Thank you, Mr. Graphics Man.
12 seconds, Dave, but the wind is actually changing now. We should have a three-quarter tailwind now coming to the finish. So we know there are still some 6-7 kilometres to go yet, so it's going to be very, very difficult for him. It depends on how the peloton reacts now.
And
bears in.
Begin to move. Well, I don't know, because unless he's gone back and put a crash hat on, because he didn't have one earlier on. He doesn't normally ride with one, and perhaps suddenly he's decided to have a go at Rees on the down here. But Rees hasn't responded, so let's wait and see. It might be Frattini, who's a very good man at this sort of tactic. So perhaps they've just sent a man down the road to try and confuse people.
Yeah, it looked like Berzin, but it's not actually, no.
To my mind, it'd be someone like Frattini who'd go for this one. And there he is now on his way down, grabbed the crash hat, stuck it on his head, rocketing down here. And in fact, it's Cenghialta, because it looks a bit too big for Frattini. Cenghialta on his way down now. Yes, it is attacked by Cenghialta. And Sorensen might yet have some company.
He's getting very, very close, Dave.
So he's been away for what, since about 34 kilometres. He's done about, nearly 25 kilometres, I suppose, with that leading group, and now on his own. But he hasn't missed a beat so much, just the speed of the group behind, who are hammering after this man, the Rabobank rider, Rolf Sorensen, looking for a second stage victory in the Tour de France.
Oh, look at that, Dave. Round he goes, round he goes, round he goes. Oh, Dave, he's very frightening, huh? He's really taking every risk. He's seen the board 5 to go. He doesn't want to be caught now after being away for so long, but if Cenghialta gets across to him, you see how fresh Cenghialta is there.
See how he's sniffing behind the motorbike. So watch this back at home. We talk about the motorbike, we see the camera. Look, he goes zip, zip, zip all over the place. A bit naughty, but what else do you expect when you're bike racing, eh? So it's 4 seconds back to this fellow, and only 8 seconds back to the main group. Oh, dear me, this could be all down to a big bunch sprint at the end of it.
But you must admit, Dave, that Sorensen does deserve really the victory, because he's putting in an incredible stage today. He has
3 kilometres to go. Sorensen down the road, and Cenghialta is trying to close that gap. Looks back over his shoulder, because the big bunch is not far behind.
Sorensen is resisting the whole way home, Dave. He could have eased up, maybe waited for him and tried riding the two of them together, but Sorensen is not so sure that if Cenghialta does get across him, he can beat him in the sprints. He wants to go on his own, try and hold them off, and who knows.
Well, Sorensen won a stage in the Tour of Italy last year. He won a stage in the Tour de France in 1994. And now Cenghialta is trying to close that gap down.
He's holding him off, Dave. He's holding him off. Let's go to show you the power that and the pursuing ability that Sorensen has. Cenghialta has only taken off. He's only been some 3 kilometres now on his own behind Sorensen. He's not actually closing up on him, Dave. I thought he would have closed up a lot faster, but he's not.
Well, Sorensen won the Paris Tour way back, about 1990 it was, some 6 years ago. He's been in the frame pretty well every year since he turned pro. He's a very, very courageous descender. He's a very, very strong rider indeed. He's a good, fast all-rounder. And right now, everybody back in Holland, where we started the Tour just, some 10 days ago, will be holding their breath to see if the Rabobank man can just hang on in there. And here he is now, coming down in toward the town. It twists and turns, it gets flatter further on down. It's inside 3 kilometres to go, and still Cenghialta is after him.
Sorensen holds off, Dave. If Sorensen holds up, he really deserves it. He cannot say nothing more about it. He could have eased up and waited for Sangyal to get back on and let him help him, but no, he decides to go on his own.
So 5 seconds back to Chengyal, 11 seconds back to main group. And I rather think, in fact, when Sorensen got his stage victory in the Tour de France, I think 99, well, I think he had Neil Stevens with him and dropped him. I could be wrong that the Stevens was second that time. Whatever it was, Sorensen is now looking for his second victory in the Tour de France. 5 seconds back to Chengyal, 11 seconds back to main group. And once the main group gets onto this pack here, they'll absolutely explode then. With just 2 kilometres to go, for Sorensen has been riding his heart out at the front. And Chengyal has out him. He can see him just down the road, and he's got him in sight, but the bunch have got this man in sight too.
Sangyal seems to be losing ground on Sorensen, Dave. Incredible ride by Sorensen.
He's still ploughing away. He's right on the peak of the saddle. He can't have much strength left in those legs then, as he pounds his Colnago bicycle as hard as he can in towards the finish. 8 seconds back to Chengyal, 10 seconds back to the main group. So Chengyal is going to get swallowed by the telecom train. And the pink and white jerseys set this one up for Zabella to take the points in the sprint here, because they want him to get over the line and take some more points off Moncassin, because the battle for the green jersey is also on. There's only at the moment some 6 points separating Moncassin in the green jersey from Zabel in the pink and white jersey. So as we're watching Sorensen hanging on here to try and get the stage victory. Let's watch out now as off the front goes in the pink. This is going to be one of the Onse boys having a go. Surely he can't
look at Rees leading out as well, Dave. That's something you very rarely see. The yellow jersey leading out a teammate for the sprint as Sorensen goes under the kilometre to go sign, Dave.
Well,
look at the job Rees is doing there. That's very, very important for young riders out there coming up to the ranks. Look at Bjorn Rees, yellow jersey leading out a teammate. That's teamwork for you.
And the lone figure in front in the pink for Onse. They've lost Jalabert today, who abandoned the stage. Zuller is way down on general classification. I'm taking a right pacing yesterday. He's 13th overall on GC, but we're not worried about the overall GC at the moment. We're worried about who's going to get the points jersey and who's going to get the stage. And still hanging on for grim death is Rolf Sorensen, coming down the finishing straight now. The bunch have got him in sight, and the foreshortening of the telephoto lens makes it seem like it's just a Nat's whisker, but it's more than that. He must be at least about 30 metres, but still Sorensen is gritting his teeth and trying so hard here to stay away, but as he comes into something like 350 metres to go, the main pack erupts and starts to overtake Sorensen, and they come in now in toward the final few metres. It looks like Sorensen races over, and off the front there's Jaffroff's in there as well as Zabel puts his head down. Zabel wants to come in clear ahead of the green points jersey of Moncassin, and Zabel starts to go for it. Abdul Jaffroff comes off his wheel. Watch out for the green jersey in the there. Abdul Jaffroff on the line, I think it was from Zabel, but I can't see the green jersey at all. Can you, Stephen? Where has he got to? Has he been shelled out on that climb? It could well be so that the telecom did the damage, and the green jersey could go off the shoulders of Moncassin and onto the shoulders of Zabel. And we watch that one yet again as Abdul Jaffroff comes back virtually from the dead. He crashed in Holland, and who got this victory here? I wouldn't like to split that one. Abdul. Oh, he says, was it me? Was it somebody else? I don't. In fact, it's not Abdu, is it? That was Betan, wasn't it, from Refin?
Yes.
Oh, it wasn't Abdu, it was Betan, eh?
Was it? You sure, Dave?
Well, let's see.
Very like Abdu. The sprint looks like Abdu. I say it was Abdu, Dave.
Okay.
Actually, they're just going back now. There's Moya Vertler. There's the green jersey.
And Boardman's bringing in the green jersey, but it's gone off his shoulders. Yeah. Chris is doing a great teamwork job here, but they got shelled out on that climb. Clear Putch is in that group as well. You can see him back there with the hat on. As Boardman does what he can do, that's bringing now the green jersey, but I'm sorry to say, as far as the GAN team is concerned, they've lost that one after that split on the climb, which meant that the green jersey now goes off the shoulders. And here we go back again to this sprint, and let's watch to see if it was Abdu coming up. Yes, it did a bold Abdu, you're right, here he goes. Look at those thighs to make your eyes water.
That's how recognised Abdu, Dave. There's only one man in the peloton, Bulldozer Abdu.
But the way he came across the way, he sort of threw his hands sideways, and I thought perhaps Zabel had got him, but well, anyway, Zabel certainly got the green jersey, and we're looking just over the top here as Abdu throws his bike. No, that's here we are.
Incredible. Looking at it from the front, Dave, we nearly think, looking from our monitor here, we could have sworn it was that.
It was the way he gestured though with his hand, because I've seen Abdu win. He goes pow, you see, and he went like he relaxed. and he tried to go by, he just hadn't got enough strength, which when you consider Abdul Jafarov, second day into tour, had that crash, split his crash out completely into several pieces. That was it, that was the move with his hand, he just knew he'd lost it, and he lost consciousness, did Abdul Jafarov in the crash in Holland on the second day. They sat him on a chair, and in fact he sat there and said, which race am I in? He didn't even know where he was. Well, today he finished second, but he's on his way back, but Sabel has got the points jersey.
Was brought to you on Eurosport by Coca-Cola. Always.
The chase is on as the escaping group of 4 men who went away after 49 kilometres on this stage from Gap to Valence, covering 202 kilometres. Of no great consequence overall in general classification, Brochard, Yaman, Bourgnon and Salvadelli are way up the road ahead of this group, and the pressure's come on thick and fast as they've been trying to close the gap down, and you can see here that Indurain has slipped the net and is trying to use that breakaway group up in front as a stepping stone to pull back his deficit on the general classification. The race then, which going today over an interesting course, running from the town of Gap in more or less a westerly direction, straight out to finish at Valence. First time we've been to Valence, and it looks like already Indurain, who on the rest day yesterday said it was not finished by any means. He went out training, did about some 85 kilometres, that's around about 50 miles around the Lac de Serponçon. Unfortunately, one of his teammates was out with Indurain yesterday on the training ride, Marino Alonso, and he was brought down by a camera on one of the motorcycles, went out to take pictures of them in training, but Indurain kept out of trouble. In fact, this is Prudential Indurain we've got in this group at the moment, and I heard the name come up on the old cans, but in fact it's Prudential Indurain that's going across here now. And so the field splitting under the pace, which has been set very quickly indeed by those leading men way down the road. Quick look at him. I heard Indurain was in the break, and in fact it's Prudencio. Well, it's certainly going through very quickly indeed now. Just trying to work out what the gap is. The maximum they had at one time was 3 minutes and 20 seconds as they were approaching the feeding station of the day, and that was after 89 kilometres had been covered. And in the feeding station, unfortunately, Jan Ulrich, who at the moment is lying 5th overall on general classification. Jan had the misfortune to fall off his bike while taking his musette. These things do happen there, but he wasn't particularly damaged. Confirmation now of that time gap, 1 minute 50 seconds back from the leading group to Laurent Madouas. We've seen him on his own before we came on air, and Madouas of the Motorola team is now 1 minute 50 seconds back on the leading group, and the chasers are at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So the gap has come down now quite considerably, as you'd expect, getting toward the back end of this race. Well, Ulrich, having fallen in the feeding station, back up on his bike. These blokes are made of real stern stuff, and the young ex-amateur world champion, who some people are tipping, says he on the tapping the side of his nose, as being in with a shout to wear the yellow jersey in Paris on Sunday week. Well, that I think is a bit of a long shot, but they've got the percents down in the newspaper this morning that they're trying to work out who could get the yellow jersey into Paris, and they've given him 5% chance of Ulrich, who has a very good team round about him. He's a good climber, a good road rider as well, but his experience is pretty new at this level at the Tour de France, lasting as it does some 3 weeks. They had a good rest day yesterday. I hope to chat to Steve Roche later on in the programme that Stephen has been out also talking to some of the riders to see what's been going on and to get the inside information. A bit of inside information which we can't get the true facts of yet, by the way, so it's a rumour. So they now 1:25, so that gap's coming down. It seems that a fax has been flying backwards and forwards. Rumour has it that Jim Okovic, the Motorola team manager, is now likely to have got a sponsor for next year. And that looks at Madouas, by the way, as being caught by that chasing group. They've just got one sign up there. Madouas, number 64, was at 150, chasing group at 210, so he's drifted back into the chasing group now. So Madouas now not out in no man's land, but safely with company of that chasing group of riders after our breakaway. So they're about 10 minutes, 2 minutes 10 down the road. But they're heading off across toward the massive Sun Trial, and in fact tonight finishing in Valence. They'll be right in the Rhone Valley. And here's that sizable bunch with Madouas. There he is on the far side of your screen. Now caught up by this little split. But they're not going to be long before the Peloton, I think, catches them back as well. So there they are, the Peloton. Still not concerned about the breakaway group of Roche, Boardman, Bourguignon and Salvador. Here they are, the gap coming down all the time. Rather than just going past the 120 kilometre point, they've got 81.5 kilometres left to go from the Vasio en Vercors. They've been over 2 of the second category climbs so far today, and then they'll be going on over a few more climbs towards the end. It's quite an interesting little course, this one today. No less than 6 climbs in all, 3 of them second category and 3 of them third category. The next one coming up, the Col de la Chaux, will be the third of the second category climbs we've had today, which haven't done any enormous damage as far as the yellow jersey is concerned, just stretched his legs a bit. That's Bjorn Ries, who is leading overall by 40 seconds on general classification to Berzin. Tony Rominger at 53 seconds and Olano at 56. Young Ulrich, I spoke to you about, who fell off in the feeding station, 1 minute 38 seconds. And Veronk at 3:39. Indurain, that's Miguel, not his brother Prudencio, at 4 minutes and 38 seconds. And the 9th man on GC is Escarting 4:49, and that's a nice snake. It's going to swallow up that little group in front any moment now. I said the pursuers look like they may get caught, so still leave our little 4-man group out in front. That's a nice sight, isn't it? That lovely echelon man on the front does the work. He'll peel back in a moment or two, and then has to fight his way back. As they come off the front of an echelon like that, you've got to look for a gap to get in, and unless somebody's kindly going to open up a wheel for you, you can find yourself dropping back 10, 20, 30 places. Great pile of our helicopters on the left-hand side as the field goes through Vasio en Vercors. They looked like marooned dragonflies sat down there, the great big white machines. Some of the helicopters, the whole fleet of them flying, by the way. Some of them are used to transmit the pictures, some of them are used by VIPs. The very, very important people get to have a lift in one of those and a chance to look down at the race from the helicopter. And also they use them at the end of the stay to fly VIPs to and from their hotels and so on, particularly a long way away from the major towns. And right now that little group who are trying to catch back the leaders have been absorbed by the peloton. It's decided time to sit up with something like about 80 kilometres to go on the front. We just had information that Minali has retired from the race. He's been in trouble right the way since the start. Early on this morning we went through the first sprint at La Roche des Arnaud, and Zabel got that one ahead of Moncassin, both of them fighting for the green points jersey. So Zabel scored the first sprint of the day, got himself 6 seconds and also 6 vital points bonus ahead of Moncassin. But shortly after that, the Col de Cabra, after some 47 kilometres, Minali was beginning to struggle, and he's now been blasted off the back of the main pack. So Minali another of the sprinters has decided he's had enough. Past the war cemetery, but it seems that they decided to call an armistice here. This group of riders now starting on the Col de la Chaux, a second category climb. Just 4 kilometres of climbing to the top, and again looks like Mados trying to prize himself off the front of this little group. And he's going to get company. Neil Stevens romping up there too as well, having now lost his job of looking after Jalabert, who retired the day before the rest day with gastroenteritis. What a sort of sad day that was for the French. They've been very upset about the whole thing, but fully understanding he just couldn't continue. He was exhausted, and so Stevens now doesn't have to do any work. So Fernandez Jeans goes straight past Neil Stevens, so Stevens now without the work he has to do for Jalabert, and really without the work he's got to do for Zuller, I suppose. Zuller's in 13th spot, 8 minutes and 27 seconds down, and there's not much chance that Zuller can do any more, I think, than look forward to the odd stage victory perhaps from now on in, and possibly just climbing up into 10th spot if he can just make it by dropping off people like Ugramov and Duffield, who are ahead of him, or somebody retiring from that top lot. So, thank you. The people on the side of the road, they certainly appreciate what these riders have been going through. This is Brochard, he with the headband, flowing locks, and there are the special sunshades. I think there must be somebody who sits in a little studio somewhere trying to design the most outrageous sunshades you've ever seen. They've gone from being just something that keeps the sun out your eyes to being works of art. And the bike riders seem, from their various sponsors of the shades, to be the front runners in the latest style. At least provided they keep the sun out their eyes and the bugs as well. What the hell would it looks like? So the group here, the tail end of that one, that's Valentino Foix from the Panari Vinaville team. The danger on these sort of short, sharp climbs is the race can split somewhat and the yellow jersey can be under pressure. Because once you're over the top of one like this one here, the Col de la Chaux, there's only another, well, they go down the other side, and the Montagne de Malatra is at 142 kilometres. So we've only got about 16 kilometres from peak to peak, and then straight after that one, the Col de Malatra, the Col de la Bataille comes within 10 kilometres the top of that one, and then the Col de Limoges is straight after the Col de la Bataille, just at 14 kilometres. Those are all very close together, and if somebody's going to have a go at the yellow jersey, then it's going to be, I think, on the next successive 4 mountain climbs. But more of that anon. These are our leading riders, but the gap is coming down all the time now, and so it won't be long, I think, before they get snaffled up, and the real big attack will come for the... In fact, no, this is a little bit of group chasing after. My mistake, I just looked down the road and saw 4 men coming up, and in fact they've rung the changes. Arieta there for the Benesto team, sitting on the wheels here, and then the rest do the work. Just up in front of him, the Calme rider, one from Roslotto, and I'm surprised to see at the moment that we're getting attack also there from Alberto Elli of the MG Technogym team, because his teammates up the road in that leading break, and one by one they're trying to get away. That was Valentino Foix. We saw him make an attack further down the road. Neil Stevens not holding the pace very well, so he's every man for himself today, hoping that the top men will be looking after the yellow jersey, allowing little groups to go away. Well, 4 men did go away after 49 kilometres. Fernandez Jean's been chased by Mados. He tried to bridge the gap once before on his own, but got stuffed. And these are the 4 men that are leading the field at the moment. So they've been out there since the 49 kilometre, and we've now just gone through climbing on the Col de la Chaux at 125 kilometres. So they've done about 70 kilometres out on the road, getting on towards 50 miles. And thank goodness the sun has come out to shine now on these riders and warm the backs and the legs, and perhaps the conditions will suit someone like Indurain, who didn't like the rain at all in the early part of the Tour. It's a lovely view. Looks to me if Brochard's riding on one of his steel frame Peugeot bikes. They all had 3 frames at the start of the season, one steel, one aluminium and one carbon fibre. And they choose a particular one which they favour for that day's racing. And you saw the Mavic vehicle there, well, the yellow motorcycle with the 2 spare wheels on the back of it. Fernandez Gines here with Madouas. That's the champion of France, champion of Spain, just behind Madouas. He'll do a marking job again here. There's so much tactical work going on amongst the top teams. But as far as Motorola concerned, it's every man for himself now, because with Armstrong having retired from the race and gone back over to America to get ready for Atlanta, then the young lads from the Motorola team have got no team leader to ride for, so they're going to try and get a few crumbs to his master's table and pick up what they can when the top man and those nearest to him are watching each other. Of course, that's for 2 reasons. A, you earn some money that way, which gets split amongst the team, and B, you get your name on the result list, and other team managers are looking out for talent right now. If Jim's certainly got the sponsor he says he's got, to be out with the old contracts very quickly indeed to retain the sort of riders he needs for next year, because a lot of snooping going on for the services of some of the top riders in the new teams that are being formed. And this is the theatre, the showground. Here I am, sir, up for grabs. And so if you perform well in the Tour de France, when you get to Paris, or during the last week anyway, the contracts are flying thick and fast. And this is the time then to make sure you're noticed by people with a fat checkbook. The Danes out in force. Actually driving along the course, I've been surprised on the Tour just how many people there are from Denmark down here watching the race. They seem to have suddenly up sticks and set off then to support Bjorn Ries, and of course a couple of days ago for the rest day, nearly a stage victory for Sorensen as well. Madouas says that's it, and suddenly the rest come thundering by. This is beginning. Oh, Madouas has now got some more company. He's trying so hard, but I think he's lacking a little bit of zip in his legs at the moment. They split. So Brochard, who was an extremely good climber indeed, is now on his way with Garmin behind him. Brochard, who had a bad start to the Tour, lost a lot of time early on, and now wanting to redress the balance with a stage victory. He's lying 26th overall, Brochard, at 24 minutes and 15 seconds, and looking for King of the Mountains points there for 2 reasons. First of all, that will help him on that particular part of the competition, but even more so, it'll take some of the points away from other riders who are trying to contest the King of the Mountains jersey from his teammate Ronk, who is further down the mountain at the moment. And here they come. Well, the gap at one time as high as 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It's certainly going to be a lot less than that. At 41 seconds, there's 5 men coming over, and I don't think it'll be long before we see the rest of the pack coming into sight. Oh, Roslotto pretty active today. 1 man up in the leading group. And here comes the main group.
Yellow jersey looking good and comfortable on the front. Little on his left-hand side, the pink. Telecom jersey on the front. Baronk just rolling over the top of this climb, collecting a few points to Kingdom out in this competition. Sorry about that, by the way, having a few problems again with the whirly bird, and the pictures through to you at home. And something tells me that these two here, with the gap now around about 1.5 minutes, after 125 kilometres of racing, and on top of this climb, still 76 kilometres to go. And the next climb coming very quickly indeed. I think their moment might be over. Still, they're persisting. So a Swiss rider and one from Festina, the watch manufacturing team, a watch manufacturing company. Roche, it's now really a French team as such as well. They were registered for a long time in Andalusia. Now they've gone and registered the team in France. Well, I said he was on one of the steel frame bikes, looking down there at the narrow tubes. Roche, he with the unusual hairstyle. And here they go. Actually, I visited the Peugeot factory about 3 weeks ago and saw them making the new light bikes with the ovalised down tube made of aluminium, particularly for that mountain time trial we had the other day, and for the other time trial yet to come. Somebody always in the background trying to make special bikes. The two leaders now only just over a minute's lead they've got on the main group, and I understand now that we've got Stephen Roche on the telephone. And Stephen, what about any news from the riders? You were talking to many yesterday in the village at the camp. Hey, Gap, how's it going?
Yes, this morning was everybody was very, very happy this morning after the rest day. And strangely enough, I spoke to many riders this morning from different teams, and they mainly all had the same training yesterday. I mean, they all had like around 70 to 80 kilometres training yesterday. They were doing a few sprints, a little bit of climbing and what have you, trying to get a bit of tiredness out of the legs, which they accumulated over the last few days. So the morale on the troops are very, very high, and everyone is saying, oh, the next few days, of course, the Massive Central are going to be very, very difficult and very hard.
We've had rumours that, in fact, Jimakovic might have a sponsor for his team next year. Have you caught up with that one as well yet, Stephen?
No, I haven't actually caught up with that one this morning at all, Dave.
Okay, now how about your cheese award for the stage going into the into Gap? Was that Sorensen?
Yes, Ross Sorensen won it. When you believe, like when you see the poor chap was caught somewhere 300 yards from the finish, it was very, very disappointing for himself. But he had an incredible ride, and he really, really deserved the currently on combativity award. But I spoke to Sorensen this morning myself actually, and he was very disappointed with the reaction of the telecom team. But he was saying that it all dates back to an old story with Bjorn Rees some years ago when Ralph himself had the yellow jersey. So it's a lot of kind of bitterness between himself and Bjorn Rees, but at the same time, the general feeling in the peloton is that Bjorn Rees may be talking too much, because, for example, yesterday in the press reception, he said, oh, I'm the strongest boy in the race, I don't care about anybody else, he said. So he seems very, very sure of himself, but in saying that, he's putting an awful lot of riders against him.
Right, now, some riders have suffered a lot. I mean, we've had Jalabert drop out the race, but one man who's soldiering on at the moment, your old friend Claudio Chiappucci, how's he feeling at the moment?
Well, actually, Claudio normally in a rest day he would do between 3 and 3.5 hours training, and this morning I spoke to Claudio, and Claudio said, oh, Steve, he says, yesterday I did 40 kilometres, he said, because he says, well, like, what have I got to lose? I'm better off using this rest day as a real rest day and recovering, because I'm no longer there for the GC, but at least I can get a good stage, so I want to make sure I'm to the front before I get to the end of the Tour de France in Paris, so I got a show between now and the Pyrenees.
That's true for many riders, isn't it now, Stephen? So many of them have failed on an overall classification, are determined to try and get a stage victory, so that must put the pressure on a lot of people.
Well, it's amazing, Dave. I'm speaking to the riders this morning. They are generally totally exhausted before coming to the rest day, and they really, really appreciated the rest day yesterday. But the morale amongst the lesser placed riders, actually from 10th down, the morale on their side was incredibly high. They were saying, well, okay, the warm weather is here now. For us, the Tour de France is starting. But when you look down the GC sheet, some of them are more than 50 minutes down. But there's incredible morale in the group this morning.
Good. Well, we'll talk to you later on then, Stephen, as the race unfolds. It looks to me as if Brochard and Yarman are going to get absorbed from the main pack, and it could be up for grabs at the end of it all. Thanks, Steve, for those comments. Look for more news later on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Dave.
So, Stephen Roche there, out on patrol, going out and doing a special job this time, trying to chat up and get some background information to add to what you see on your screens here. Eurosport bring you live racing on the stage today from Gap to Valence, the 11th stage of the race, 202 kilometres. Thank you to those people, by the way. They've been writing letters in. They've started to come, and I've caught up with one or two of them, and we'll try and talk to one or two of you people during the transmissions as we get the letters coming in from you out there, and we'll do our best to bring you up to date right the way through and give you the background stories to this great race. And certainly it is the greatest race we've seen for a long time now, with Indurain in 8th spot, 4 minutes and 38 seconds down, and the debate is everywhere. I suppose you people watching at home now, maybe talking to your friends, because it's getting bigger and bigger audiences from people who don't understand cycling, and so it's this, will he do it, won't he do it? And it's tremendous how that big question mark hanging over the race. And I in fact was involved in a very similar conversation not long ago before we came on air with people who aren't normally following cycling, and saying, look, 4 minutes 38 seconds, he's finished. I said, hang on, he's only got to pull back a minute and a half of that or so, and it could decimate certain riders in the time trial, which we're going to have from up to Saint-Emilion from Bordeaux. Because I remember 4 years ago now, when over 60 kilometres at Luxembourg, on that stage there in the time trial, admittedly a sort of dual carriageway, very fast type of course, that Indurain was well over 3 minutes clear of the next man, and most of the top riders had a difficulty staying within 4 and 5 minutes of him. But then there's a lot of good time trialists in that group as well. Rominger, our record holder, is third overall at 53 seconds. Berzin, ex-Pursuit champion of the world, super time trialist par excellence. Galano, who was second to Indurain in the time trial championship of the world last year. Some very good riders ahead of Indurain even now, so he's got to try and jump away from them and pick up the odd half minute here, odd half minute there. So we'd like to see a lot of attacking going on. And if Rees has been, as he has, Stephen's quite right in the press room, boasting he's the strongest man in the race, and that, you know, he's confident, that's sure. He's a very good time trialist. He did tremendous ride on Huit Serang last year when he was 5 seconds ahead of Indurain at the check with 6 kilometres to go, and then finally lost by 12 seconds. If he can keep that sort of form, then there's no way that Indurain can pull back the time he's got now. But everybody can have a bad day, and so the thing that Rees has to hope for, he's got a strong team round about him. But there's going to be so many teams wanting to attack now, particularly those without their star rider any longer. And you get a platform like this one with Yarman here and Brochard at the back of this two-man group here. They can provide little stepping stones and a lot of jumping around, and of course there's some scores to be settled between people like Veronk and Leblanc. And if they start jumping around on the climbs and the mountain top finish that we're going to have, then people like Indurain can take advantage of that. So we've still got a very, very, very interesting race ahead of us on this, the 11th stage of the race, 21 stages in all, so we're just over the halfway point, or just on the halfway point, after the rest day at Gap.